Hello and welcome back to the Spotlight Games podcast for episode 154. Today we'll be sharing our thoughts on three huge games of 2025: Avowed, Elden Ring Nightreign, and Lost Records Bloom and Rage. Plus, Sony may not be having a big summer showcase this year, and GTA 6 might be going the Fortnite and Roblox route. I switched some vowels there in my reading of today's conversation, but joining me for today's conversation, as always, my sweet dumpster boy, Cayman. How you doing?
Patrick, you don't want me here right now. Believe me.
No?
You don't want me here. You don't want me here, Patrick, because I'm about to deliver some bad news, Patrick.
Oh, no.
So, a few things. One, there's some bad news on the horizon for a lot of things, and we'll probably discuss it at some point, either here or elsewhere.
Yeah.
But this is not bad news that I want to talk about that's gaming related, Patrick. This is bad news about one of your heroes, Patrick.
God damn it. We're bringing this up on the show.
Oh, wow. We're doing this live.
We're doing this live. I said we were going to do it live. We're doing it live.
Fuck.
Paul Walker's a pedophile.
It hurts.
So, how does it feel knowing that Paul Walker at the ripe old year age of 33 was dating a 16-year-old?
It's first of all, it doesn't feel good.
I feel like the Paul Walker's camp is going to reach out and they're going to be like, you can't say that. And I'm going to be like, why? Is it because it's disparaging the dead?
High Score Weekly says, I thought this was news from a while ago. For most people, it was. Yeah, for me, correct. This weekend, it wasn't.
And me.
This news.
I didn't know it either. When I heard it, it was like a bomb dropped as well. It felt like the second plane hit. I was like, what the fuck? 0 days without 9/11 being mentioned.
Yeah.
I loved Paul Walker growing up.
So, yeah, and Jake Twitching in the chat says, they always say for best algorithm results, it's important to scream pedophile in the first 2 minutes.
What, do you want me to say 9/11 next? I will.
I will. Oh, I will, brother. I was at Cayman's house this weekend. This is where I learned this news, and I've been dealing with it in my own way, essentially by pushing it out and trying not to think of it. Homie's dead. And so I'm just, but it's not good. The official position is it's not good, folks.
This is great. Live on Spotlight Games, you just heard it here first. Pedophilia, not great.
Not good.
I've been saying it. I was saying it before it was cool to say it. Not okay.
Sure. Not okay.
Not
okay. Well, joining us also, my gamble we're taking GWT Maury. Maury, I don't know what to say after that. But save us.
Yeah, dude, there's no way to follow that up. Man, honored to be here. This is the one place I want to be, talking about Paul Walker, pedophilia, and 9/11. Spotlight Games every Tuesday night.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a whole lot of video game stuff to talk about because this is the Spotlight Games podcast where each week we spotlight the latest and the greatest in the world of video games. You can get it by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Spotlight Games Pod, or by searching for Spotlight Games in your favorite podcast app. And hey, you can be on the show by tuning in as we record live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time right here on twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod, just like High Score Weekly, Jake Twitchin, Gianni DeCrosta, Cognitive Clips, and Jonesing Simba all are. Be like them. Follow us so that you're notified when we go live, so you can be part of the conversation. We're 3 episodes in, gentlemen, of Doki Doki Literature Club with myself and Rose. We return tomorrow for episode 4.
Some crazy 2 hours long. That game is 2 hours long.
No, it's not. That is simply not true. It's at least 10 hours.
I got to jump in now on the Doki Doki Literature Club shout out. Last night, me and Sedina, right, against my own will, because I'm not an anime guy, went to see the Attack on Titan movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm sitting there in the theater. I don't watch anime, dying laughing. Sedina dying laughing with me because all we can think of the whole time is Patrick and fucking Rose from Doki Doki Literature Club streams, because like all the little grunts, yes. And every time like one of the characters would do it, me and Sedina would start dying laughing. And Sedina loves anime, but she couldn't stop saying, dude, this is Patrick and Rose. This is so bad. And I was like, I know this is really what they sound like. So I'm sorry. I just had to say you've invaded my personal life, Patrick, my relationship with how impactful these streams are.
That makes me a little blurry. That makes me genuinely so happy to hear that my acting choices on twitch.tv/SpotlightGamesPod actively ruined the Attack on Titan anime movie
so
for
good.
you.
So good.
But I think also that is a resounding endorsement to join us tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time right here on twitch.tv/SpotlightGamesPod for some more Doki Doki Literature Club. We've gotten through 2 or 3 quote-unquote endings so far, essentially just chapters of the game, if you know the game. So we're having a good time. We'll be back tomorrow night. And then also dropoutpod.com has all sorts of good stuff. We got Jake Twitch and streams. We got JK Games podcast. We got Spotlight Games podcast. We got Cognitive Clip video essays. Now, as a matter of fact, we got dumpster dives on the internet outside of the Spotlight Games podcast. We got GWT more streams. We are cooking on so many fucking levels here, my dudes. So dropoutpod.com. Let us know what you like, and by giving us a follow. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out Cognitive Clips for another sub here on the channel. 13 months might be the longest streak we have on the channel. Thanks for being here, Coggy Boy. We love you. We appreciate the sub. What else? Join the Discord. We got a fun little Discord where we goof off and generally discuss video games together. So if that sounds like something you'd like, click the link in the description of the YouTube video. Click the link in the bio of our socials to join the Discord. For those of you that have been here before, like myself, like Maury, like the Dumpster Boy, like everyone in the chat presently, we typically start our shows with what we've been playing, and today is no different. Boys, but there's a lot of games to talk about. Honestly, this might be half the show. Talking about what we've been playing. We got Avowed, we got Nightreign, we got Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, we got some dumpster dives. Where do we want to begin?
Nightreign?
I think we end on Nightreign.
Yeah, you're right. I want to hear about Avowed, dude.
All right,
I've not gotten to play it yet.
Let's talk about Avowed. I put in a few hours into Avowed before Drop In Drop Out Pod on Thursday and shared some initial thoughts there. Since then, I've put in about 2.5 more hours. So I'm still early in the game. I'm in the first area still. But man, I am having a great time with this video game. My initial thoughts were there was like some concerns I had, things like side characters not just like clicking for me, it leaning a lot on the Pillars of Eternity lore, and those things are still true for me 2.5 more hours in, but it's only 2.5 more hours. It's not like I'm in Act 3 of the game by any means, but boy does this game feel good on the sticks. It is giving Skyrim in lots of ways. You know, this is an Obsidian RPG. Folks that made Outer Worlds, folks that made Fallout New Vegas. This is, you know, them at their best, essentially doing this kind of a game, I think. So it's so pretty. Like there's the combat feel, it's weighty. Like it packs a punch, which I love. There's all sorts of different varieties that you can have in combat. I'm personally going like a spell sword route. Got the grimoire in one hand, shooting my spells, the sword in the other. I might throw the sword back and pull out the wand and throw some magic bullets at people, but I am like always itching to get back into this game with so far with the experience that I've had, and it is out now officially for everybody. I was a fool and gave them $24 to be able to play it 5 days early, and now anyone can play it if you have Game Pass.
How do you feel about that, Patrick?
I think it is horseshit.
Yep.
I think it is a misuse of advertising, and I think it is something that a person like me in a position of I'm trying to make content, I'm trying to, you know, get out there and get the word out for people ahead of the algorithm, and I'm having to pay $25 to do that. It feels gross, it feels icky, but I'm gonna do it because that's the situation.
The $25, what did that entail you? Was that just early access that you paid almost half the cost of the total price of the game just to play 5 days early? Or do you get something from this, or is it just because this feels bad? It
technically is the deluxe edition upgrade. So that also comes with like fucking music or whatever. It comes with digital bullshit. I got like some armor out of it. It's the classic, like there's really not much value there. The real value is getting to play it 5 days early. And this is like the second or third time that they've done this on Game Pass. So I think this is here to stay. I think they've already said they're doing this for South of Midnight. And it feels fucking gross to be totally honest. But really enjoying the game. Came in, I think you'll fucks with this a good bit.
Mhm.
I think once you get your hands on it, once it comes to PlayStation, or once you play it on that nice PC that's coming your way. But yeah, I almost said Avowed. Are you going to play more? Are you going to play Avowed?
Totally. Yeah, I really want to get into it. I've heard a lot of mixed things, but a lot of people that I trust and that I usually agree with really like this game and are saying it's a game of the year contender. So I want to get my hands on it. In regards to the like $30 upcharge, at least that's what it was for Starfield when I got the early access for Starfield.
Yeah.
What I really dislike about that is that the early access is the same price as how much you pay for your monthly Game Pass subscription. If not more. So it's like you're telling me that like this equates 4 days early, 3 days early, equates to the same value as a month of Game Pass. And that seems like sick as fuck to me. Like I hate that they do this. And then they're like, yeah, day 1 on Game Pass. Not quite, like day -4 on Game Pass. Like this is bullshit. But anyway, I did it for Starfield. I didn't do it for this game because I knew that I wasn't going to be doing like a comprehensive, in-depth like commentary on it. But I'm happy to hear that after 4.5 hours in, you're enjoying it and you're liking where you're going with it.
Yeah, and you saying that it's more than a month of Game Pass. It's basically 2 months of Game Pass, depending on the plan you have. And I'm like, oh, that just like unlocked a thing in my brain. That's how they're helping fund this shit.
That's how they pay for it, dude.
Is that there are? I don't know. I haven't seen numbers from people like Matt Pescatella, like the analysis folks of the industry, but I'm sure millions of people did that.
Oh yeah.
Multiply that by $24.99 or whatever it was, and that's a nice little check that they can deposit in their fucking golden bank. But yeah, that aside, I think right now Avowed is laying somewhere between like 80 and 85 on OpenCritic, like an 82 or 3 maybe. I think that feels pretty accurate to me based on the time that I've had with it. I could see the main story pushing it up a little bit, but it seems like that's kind of one of the biggest gripes people have with the game is the main story just not feeling like there's much there. But yeah, I'm having a good time. So far, I totally recommend it, especially if you have Game Pass. If you have Game Pass and you like this kind of game, easy no-brainer for me.
Patrick,
I love it.
Question. So I've been watching videos and watching gameplay of this because it does look like a game that I would vibe with to a certain degree. I'm hesitant, mainly just because I was really let down with Starfield. Just did not vibe with that. And so I'm a little bit worried that there might be that maybe these games just don't click with me anymore. I'm not sure. I know that you're a Starfield apologist, Maury. We know.
Yes,
I know.
I'm
not sure why you're not at fault for the game not being very good. It's just mid.
I hate it. I hate it. I'm chastised every day.
I'm just saying. So that aside, one thing I've noticed, I really need someone to explain this to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is up with all the things I'm seeing of people running at ludicrous speeds in third person? Like, can you play the game in third person, or is it just like if you want to go fast, you go third person because you fucking are hauling dick?
So I have approximately put about 36 seconds into the third person mode of Avowed. It's a setting it's not like, in Skyrim, you click like the right stick or whatever, and it pops you out to third person. Here, it's like a checkbox in the settings of the game. Like, do you want to play in third person or not? And it is so clear. Like, if somehow an Avowed developer is listening to this and they ran point on the third person mode, I'm sorry, but it's so bad. Like this game is completely head to toe optimized for first person, because I am one of these people that if I can play third person, I'm going to play all of Skyrim in third person. I don't care how janky it looks. I would rather see my character than just be seeing my hands. But it's so bad in Avowed that I was like, no, I would rather play this game in first person. It just looks so goofy to a point where it makes the game look bad. I think.
Okay.
So that's part of it, I think.
Question. This is another question unrelated to third person. I just want to say the third person was just really fucking funny to me.
Yeah.
And I was so confused as to what was happening, but every time I saw it, I was shitting my pants laughing. Yeah. Coming off the heels of playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
Yes.
Which for me right now, and it's early in the year, is my front runner for game of the year. And I know it's front runner for Game of the Year for a lot of people. And I've been hearing a lot of critiques about Avowed being in the same vein as like how people felt about Dragon Age Veilguard, where Baldur's Gate 3 came out and kind of did dirty anything that BioShock was going to release, right?
Yeah.
Second, and then now they're saying it's like, hey, look, Kingdom Come, come in these leathers. I had to do it. I had to fucking do it.
God.
That it's kind of having the same effect on Avowed, where it's like you're coming off of like what a hardcore RPG is to a game that has skill points. So like, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like this is okay? Do you feel like that there's missed opportunities? Like, where's your head at when you compare the two?
I think there is a world for both. And I think for someone who like RPGs are their favorite, all they do is play RPGs, it's a great time for them. They have two options. And then, once they finish putting 150 hours into Kingdom Come 2, then they can jump over to Avowed, or vice versa. Once they put, 50 into Avowed, they can go into Kingdom Come. But it's definitely such a vastly different experience so far. And I think for me, it's been nice where because I'm dabbling with both still. I probably am going to finish Avowed well before I finish Kingdom Come, if I ever finish Kingdom Come. But it's that nice thing of, am I feeling like playing, or am I feeling like role playing? And like kind of deciding that, because with Kingdom Come, it is certainly you are role playing in that game. I got to go fucking make horseshoes in Kingdom Come. Right. Whereas in Avowed, if there's a horse, I'm probably just blowing it up with a fire spell. So it's like, it's serving, I think, two audiences, but that have, a bit of an overlap. But I think what I would say, if there is someone out there listening to this that's like, I just feel like I am at a point where I prefer the more kind of systems-based RPG. I'm not even going to give Avowed a shot. I would say if you have Game Pass, give it a shot. If you have to put money down, maybe, when you put money down, all of a sudden decisions carry more weight because it's something that you spent time getting, and now, that kind of thing. But it would be unfortunate if Avowed gets shifted aside for a lot of people because they think that it won't live up to what Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 did, because I think they're totally different experiences personally.
Okay. Sure. I want to open this up. And I know that we had said early in this that we most likely would spend half the episode talking about what we've been playing, but I think this is a really poignant topic that I really want to take a beat from both of you, because I think both of you have dabbled enough into this. You might have a good opinion. Do you think we've hit a point where after Elden Ring, after Baldur's Gate shit, even after, Tears of the Kingdom and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, do you think that we've hit a point where like gamers are starting to want niche, like kind of hardcore experiences? Because if you think about games that have performed ludicrously well, not a lot of them have been the more what you consider like mainstream game. Yeah, Baldur's Gate did ludicrous numbers. Elden Ring did ludicrous numbers. Apparently, Kingdom Come is absolutely blowing it out of the water. It's already like made back double, I think, what the development cost was. So like, and I mean, we're looking at like some of the largest games, like sales wise, are like what one would consider at least maybe 5-10 years ago, like a super niche type of game.
Sure.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think we're entering into a new era of RPG or games in general?
Yeah, dude. Well, I think there was a quote from the director at Arrowhead, the company that's doing, the developer that's doing Helldivers 2, and it was a question about like some sort of accessibility or something, and he said something really great. He said, "A game for everyone is a game for no one," and I think that we're starting to see that that's true on an industry-wide level. That people want things that are challenging, and people want things that like are inaccessible to some extent. That like, hey, if you're not willing to sit down for 3 hours and get thrown into the wall by this boss over and over again so you figure it out, or in the case of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, you're gonna fight this one NPC for 4 hours because you can't get your sword strokes right, like then you're just not gonna be able to play the game. And I think I do think that the industry, well, I think that the audience is starting to become more fond of those experiences, and I think the industry is adapting to that, and they're making more challenging experiences. I think all things ebb and flow, right? I think it's going to get just too hardcore. I think everything's going to start to feel super inaccessible and super challenging. And then maybe you'll see people start to wean off of that a little bit. But right now, I think it's all the rave, of course.
I wonder, though, if it is that, or is it that every year more gamers enter the ecosystem, and thus, the rising tide lifts all ships. And then as part of that, we have games like Fortnite and Rocket League and these games that just year after year have a huge audience and continue to grow that audience. Call of Duty, another obvious example. But now I'm making this number up, we have 15 more million people playing games. And within that ecosystem now are just 15 more gamers to go around. I don't know. Maybe it's a mix of both.
Sure.
But I think ultimately, what is clear to me is that there is an audience for these kinds of games, for these like hyper specific, very serious, not in tone, but in like systems and that kind of thing. It seems to be that there is certainly an audience for those. Whereas I bet if Kingdom Come in this state came out in the PS3 life cycle, wouldn't have done much.
Yeah.
Because I think at that point, we maybe weren't at a point yet where that would click for enough people. I don't know. It's a very interesting question, Cayman.
Sure.
Well, I don't have a fucking answer. So
yeah. What do you think? Do you think that yes?
Well, I think Maury's onto something, but I think at the same time, like, we need to take it in consideration that both Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate, and there's another one I mentioned, have like difficulty settings. Like
Sure.
Helldivers even has you can play in the easiest mode. So it's not like we're like Elden Ring or Deliverance. Maybe, and honestly, I would say like Elden Ring's probably the hardest of all of them. But even then, from what I'm hearing, Nightreign might be making that a bit easier for people to palate, and making it a little bit easier of an entry point. We'll get to that. So I do think it's interesting, but I think that, like, I don't know, part of me does. I mean, I think if we always think about how the industry goes, when you overflood is what, like, you flood it with the same thing over and over and over again, like, eventually people are going to be like, I'm tired of this. I want something new. You can probably look at probably the best example of this in recent memory would be look at Everything Everywhere All at Once. Comes out the same year as like all of these big DC Marvel films. And people were like, yeah, we don't want the DC Marvel stuff because we've seen this movie 15 times before. This is really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And this becomes like a cultural movement. And I think that might be a sign of it, that people are like, we are wanting more interesting games and we want something different. And these games are bringing and providing us something that is, nothing we've seen before, or at least we've had access to on a grander scale. These games have always existed to some degree, but I do think that's interesting. I think that I kind of hope that's the case. I kind of hope that where gamers are kind of finally being like, hey, we want niche experiences and weird experiences, because I think that that's better for the industry at whole. You can't just have like a complete domination of like one thing, or we're just going to get so burned out that all we're getting is Call of Duty every single year.
Sure.
This is why I raged about Concord. This is why I raged, and I'm standing on business right now. You sick fuck, shut Concord down, and I'll find where you live, motherfucker. Now, I agree.
I want to bring in a point from the chat. Jumping Simba says, I think the thing Helldivers, Souls games, and BG3 have in common is they refused to alter their vision for the sale of wide appeal. They put the quote art, end quote, if you will, first. I think that's a part of it, at least. That is a great point, Simba.
Yeah,
I think
really good point.
I think part of it is, I don't know that maybe people want, maybe niche isn't the word. I think maybe it's vision of like, you look at something like Dragon Age, which is, I think, a bad example, but I think if we were to take away all of the DEI bullshit of that game, and when I say bullshit, I mean people not playing it because they thought that it was too diverse, not that DEI is bullshit. If you put that aside, and it is, for lack of a better term, a pretty standard Dragon Age game. Like, it's evolved, it's combat, it's like that kind of thing, but it's not necessarily reinventing the wheel. It's not, leaning into much of a creative difference.
Sure.
And innovation. That's the word I'm looking for. There's not much innovation with that game. But you look at something like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, there's a fuck ton of innovation in that game.
Right.
The NPC system in that game is mind-blowing. Every single NPC has a complete 24-hour schedule, and the way you interact with them can completely change their schedule. So like if they work at the smithy, you can find them between the hours of 8 and 6 every day or whatever. And if you go rob their house and like, interact with them and like throw a wrench in their system, that's going to like blow up their track. And like that can work for basically every NPC. That's insane.
Yeah.
And nothing like that exists in Dragon Age: The Veilguard. It's, for lack of a better term, it's like a more simple action RPG. So yeah, I think that's maybe part of it. Simba, for sure. That's very interesting. One last thing also from Simba before we jump into, I want to hear from Cayman on one of his dumpster dives. He says, would you rather, this is going back to the game price conversation, would you rather them increase the base cost of Game Pass? Personally, I've struggled to see how they can make the Game Pass profitable without doing weird stuff like this. The super fans and content creators essentially subsidize it for those who don't need it early. It sucks, but still better than a full price $70. I don't know. I'm torn. Cayman, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think unfortunately the way that the world's going right now, video games are going to have to increase in price, and things like this is going to have to happen. And I don't want it. You don't want it. I'm not asking for it to happen, but I also am fully aware that the carton of eggs costs $10 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, the way things are going, I'm not sure if that's going to change anytime soon.
Sure.
And the truth is that if we don't want to see more developers being shut down, we have to pay more. It sucks. I hate it. And that's where dumpster dives come in, because not everyone can afford a 70 to what could be up to $100 per game soon. Not everyone can afford that. And I think there is a positive here if that does happen. And you're probably thinking that I'm insane for saying this, but like the rise of the AA game is going to come back if games start costing $100. And you're probably thinking like, no, I want my big, huge games. Why do I want AA games? It's because our big, huge games are starting to suck.
Yep.
And because they're not being pushed by other more innovative properties. I'm sorry, indies aren't cutting it.
Yeah.
As great as Balatro isn't fucking around, and it's not making Starfield better,
Sure.
But what will make Starfield better is like 10 games that are scars above and maybe a little bit better.
Sure.
And once that happens, then people aren't going to be settling, and they're not going to be wanting to pay $100 for a game when they can now go back and start paying $60 for a AA game.
Yeah.
And we need that.
Man, this is why I want South of Midnight to succeed so fucking badly, because it's a $40 game.
Right.
And yeah, did you not know this?
No.
I realized this. I had heard it months ago, and I just, went in one ear out the other. And then when the previews were dropping last week, I was reminded that it's a $40 game. And I'm like, oh, fuck, that's right. So I hope this game hits, and that isn't used to make it seem worse. Because I mean, we know that the fucking right-wing gaming community is going to come out of the woodworks because it's a black protagonist, it's a female protagonist. So that already is going to be going against it. But hopefully, a $40 price tag will show them that they're fucking idiots. But we'll see.
And if I can, I want to tap in on what Jonesing Simba said real quick, just something to jump at the back end. I do agree with Cayman. Games are going to become more expensive. I think that they should. That's just where we're going as an industry. My one request from like Microsoft is that if you're going to charge me for, because it's the deluxe edition of the game, I want you to do a comparable price to what a deluxe edition of a game costs. When I get the deluxe edition of something on the PlayStation 5, I spend $80 instead of 70. Right, maybe 85. But like $25, $30, like what I paid for Starfield, is not what a deluxe edition is worth. So I just want it to be more comparable to the actual value that it's providing. And if you still want to charge that $25, $30, just give me a little more. Not digital goodies. Maybe give me 3 days, even more early access, like 7 days early access. Like just give me something. Throw something else on top.
I would also add to that by saying, Microsoft, you can't do both. You can't raise Game Pass
Yes.
and charge me $25 in advance. They're going to, but like as the consumer, that would be my request because I understand that the cost of things have to go up, especially when you have a fucking psychopath in the White House just burning every fucking possible bridge around the world. So it's like, of course, games are going to start costing more because of all the bullshit that's happening in DC. So it's like, okay, as the consumer, I will help pay for that. It sucks. I don't want to, but I will. But I just hope that it doesn't start coming from both sides of like, now Game Pass is $25 a month, and I'm going to have to pay $30 to get it 5 days in advance. And a base game is going to be $80 instead of $70. It's like, fuck, from every angle it's going up. That's what I hope doesn't happen personally. But I almost guarantee it's gonna. Cayman, let's hear something. Let's hear some good news. Let's talk about one of those dumpster dives. Now, you got two for us today.
I got two dumpster dives, but I want to start with something else first, Patrick.
Okay.
We played a video game. Okay, hold on. Let's say have the sausages made. Patrick and I saw each other for the first time in person in like 2 years. We live 2 hours apart. Yeah, we're both lazy and bad friends.
More so me. You have a good excuse to not come to where I live. I don't have an excuse.
Patrick, it's really funny. Patrick and I can go 2 years without seeing each other in person. And when we see each other in person for the first time, nothing's changed. Absolutely nothing's changed. Maybe it's because we do this and we literally talk daily, so it's not like some shock when we see each other. But we got to play a game together, which is, I think, the first time that we've played a game together, maybe since Helldivers 2.
Probably.
We played this game called Big Helmet Hero. Let me tell you folks at home, this is how I spent my Valentine's Day. My wife and I on the couch, got a bottle of wine, and we just played like 4 straight hours of this game. Big Helmet Heroes is fucking great. It's so a fucking weird game. This is a future dumpster dive. Its price point's $20, so there you go. So probably will be 10 within the next 4 to 6 months. So essentially the breakdown is this: you play as a character that you choose at the start of the game, and it is a 2D, almost isometric 2D beat 'em up. It's very unique. It's really pretty looking. Like it's in Unreal Engine 5, I believe. And then as you go through, you will just randomly pick up weapons and can use those weapons against enemies. So things like a marshmallow, you can like a s'more, you can use like set people on fire, or you can use pots and pans, or like all like sledgehammers or katanas, like all sorts of fucking weapons. You can find Excalibur in the game. Like really weird things you can just pick up, and then you'll start collecting other heroes, and through that you'll end up with essentially like you could pick through, I think there's like 35 heroes you can choose from in total. Each have like a different special power. When you do that special power, really funny shit can happen. Like you can call like a herd of sheep. We unlocked one last night where you go into first person mode on a turret and are shooting bubbles at people. And if you hit them with a bubble, they just float up and die. Like they float off screen. It's 2-player couch co-op, or you can do it solo. And it's just, man, Patrick, we got time with it. Fucking fun. Just a fun, weird game.
Really fun. Jonesy Sim in the chat says it looks like Castle Crashers. It had that vibe for sure. That like chaotic co-op vibe. I haven't bought it myself yet, but I absolutely plan on buying this myself. It's so much fun. It's like dumb fun, right? It's like you can
100%
not be thinking about anything and still be beating this game, and it looks good, and it has a really fun gameplay loop. Like it's like the perfect stupid fun game, I think.
Yeah.
So very good fun.
Yeah, 100% is. And I think it's one of those where like I don't think there's enough couch co-op games anymore. I think that's like a lost genre of game. So being able to get one of those again, it just feels great. And perfect price point for it too. I
mean, you said it's been probably since Helldivers 2 since we played a game together. Probably, I don't even know the last time we played couch co-op together.
Oh boy. How long has that been? Good Lord.
I'm sure something we played something together since Resident Evil 4 on the Wii in high school, but that's the first thing that comes to mind for me.
I was about to say, wow, that's like when I was born. That's crazy. Wow, look at that.
You were goo-gooing and gaga, and we were unlocking the RPG in Resident Evil 4. Cayman, if I may, can I jump in with a quick report on Lost Records, Bloom and Rage before we hear about?
Yes, you can.
The mothered, your big mother load of a dumpster dive. So this came out today. Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, tape 1. So we're gonna get 2 tapes. Tape 1 today, tape 2 in 2 months in April. Launched to some less than stellar reviews. It's sitting at that like 74-ish on OpenCritic, Metacritic. Not bad by any means, but
Yeah.
I personally was hoping that it would land in that mid 80, maybe even up to a low 90s, because everything that we had seen from this game just looked like it was oozing style, looked like Don't Nod might be taking their formula to the next level, telling a really cool story. Very similar to, also on TV right now, Yellow Jackets, where there's like a present day narrative and then a flashback narrative of the characters back in 1995. And launched to some good reviews, but not great reviews. And it's on PS Plus. So I booted it up today after work, put like an hour and a half into it. And an hour and a half is only a little bit of time with this game. But I fucking love this game so far.
Wow.
I am having a great time. The vibes are immaculate. It does a lot of really cool stuff. Like there's this system in the game with your main character Swan. You have a camcorder, like a mid-90s camcorder with the tiny tape, and the version of collectibles in this game is going around the environment and like shooting on your camcorder, and each like collectible will have or can have up to like 15 like pieces, and once you have filmed those pieces, it'll like auto put it all together and make like a little tape with those things. So like there's like really cool little things like that might have people might have been following this from the jump, but I saw that first trailer, I was like, this looks great. I'm going radio silence, and I think radio silence has really served my experience. But don't let the reviews keep you away from trying Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. I can't wait to get back to it. Earlier today, before I started, I was like, hey, Rose, does this look like a game you would like? Like we could, consider maybe streaming this or just playing it together. And she watched the trailer. I was like, oh yeah, this looks great. I was like, well, I want to talk about it on the podcast. I'm going to play a little bit. But now I'm like, do I
gotta wait?
Do I wait for her, start it over? Do I just play it and then play it again with her? I don't know, because I'm just like, all I want to do is just see what happens next in Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. So very excited about this.
I needed this pitch. I needed this. So like for me, because these are the guys that do Life is Strange.
Correct.
So ever since the first Life is Strange came out, which got like great reviews, all of them have kind of been in that like middling 70s range. At least that's what I've seen. And so I've always kind of just like avoided it. I'm like, I don't know. Do I want to put the time into a 70 something out of 100? But hearing you say that, like, I'm very excited to download it and jump in. I'm excited.
It has a couple flaws. Like there's some performance stuff. There's a really cool thing with Life is Strange Double Exposure. One of the things I talked about on this very podcast, twitch.tv/SpotlightGamespot, was there was this like weird space between so much of the dialogue where they would say a line and there would be like a half a second of space before the next person spoke, which doesn't sound like a lot, but once you notice it, it's like, can we just fucking pick up the pace here, people? Like I got places to be. And this game is doing an interesting thing where the dialogue can sometimes feel super, like it seems like they've programmed it to feel more realistic, specifically with its timing, where like people are talking over each other and you can come in with a line kind of at any point when someone's talking, or you can just let them talk and not speak. Similar, we've seen that before, but they're doing it in a way in this game that feels a little fresh comparatively. However, there have been a few times where it kind of turns into chaos. It's like something in the code missed at some point, and now all of a sudden everybody's talking at the same point and they're responding to each other, and it's like, this is all noise and I'm struggling. But so far, like that's one of the only things I've noticed about this game. But more, I like it more than I don't like it, because usually it sounds great the way they're implementing it.
Sure. I feel like these types of games all perform a little shittily.
Yes.
Like it doesn't matter if it's Don't Nod, if it's Deck 9, if it's Telltale, like whatever it is about these games, they just cannot perform at 100%. I don't know if what it is. Maybe it's the fact that like dialogue has so much gig goes towards dialogue, like recordings and stuff. And the fact that like there's really no, like the way that cutscenes function are different in how this works. So like I don't know. Maybe it's just smaller teams. This is something I would love for someone much smarter than me
Sure.
to do like a video of this so that I can watch it at midnight while I'm gorded in bed trying to figure out how I'm going to sleep. This is just my life. Fantastic.
Yeah. Cayman.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear about this game. You pitched
I can't wait.
the Discord.
I can't wait either.
Tell me about Mothered.
I'm not going to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell everyone that's watching, go ahead and go grab your family members. Tell everyone that you're friends with, go ahead, get them. No. Take it off screen, Patrick.
Take it off screen.
We're not ready for it. Okay. I need everyone to go do what they need to do because you're going to want to hear me talk about this upcoming game. Okay. While you go do that, let me tell you about another dumpster dive I played called It Could Happen to You. It Can Happen to You is a text-based point-and-click adventure that is on console and PC. And it's a really interesting game with essentially what it is you start the game off, you are a guy who is going to go to the countryside to visit your aunt and uncle and just get some R&R. When you get there, they're like, yeah, our cattle has been killed. And you get embroiled in a massive conspiracy involving Mothman and aliens and people abductions and the Men in Black. And it's all point and click. And some really weird shit happens. And it moves at such a pace in which I was never bored. I was always waiting to see what was going to happen next. My one complaint is that it does seem like for a game like this, there is no death. There's no bad ending. Every choice you make will end up leading you back to the same big point. You might just have some micro events in between that are different. And that's cool enough for a second playthrough to do something different on each try. However, I think I would have liked it. Just kill me. Let Mothman rip my guts out or something.
Sure.
Give me something cool like Boston Knights did. Or Boston Knights. But I do think it's a cool game. I picked it up for $2. It has some really funny grammatical errors because it seems like it was ported over from a studio that's not located in the States. I was really struggling to find any information about the studio. They have one other game. So you'd have some quotes that would be just leave. It's it said something like leave, but they were supposed to say left. And it was really, but then it kind of gives it this Lynchian feel where it's something's not quite right. Interesting game. I say go pick it up. It's called It Could Happen to You. You can beat it in about an hour and a half. It could happen to you. And go check it out. I think it's a cool one. If you like point and click adventure games, which I don't think there's any of anymore. So
Sure.
being able to play one today is pretty cool. All right, Patrick, are you ready?
Oh, I'm
okay, guys. Once in a blue fucking moon, I'll be digging through the manure, Patrick. I'll just fucking shoveling that shit. Whoop, whoop, right? And then I'll hit a fucking chunk of gold that I'm how the hell did this end up here? And this is a game called Mother, a role-playing horror game.
Oh.
Let me tell you that I haven't had this level of elation playing a video game since Bloodwash.
Whoa.
This
Wow.
How in the flying fuck has no one ever heard of this game before? And every single person right now, it is $2.99. Buy this game. Buy the game immediately. There's no question. Just buy the game. If you're watching it right now with us, you'll see that it is a lo-fi horror game, but it's not really lo-fi. It's really weird. It almost feels like that those launch games of the PlayStation 2, where it was just slightly it was good enough to look better than the PlayStation 1, but still janky, It is surreal as hell. And the way that this story plays out, there were times where I straight up was just nope, absolutely no fucking way that they're going to do this. And then you get hit with some nugget of something and you're oh my God, it is a absolute trip. It is a mind fuck to the nth degree. I was telling my wife about this last night. I was I can't shut the fuck up about this game. I need to tell you all about this game. And I went through and I told her about the story of this. And she was okay, I didn't want to play it. That's why I told you to tell me the story. But now I think I want to play this game. What the fuck? And I was yes, it is absolutely fucking unreal. What I will tell you is just to kind of set the stage And if I tell you anymore, it'll be a spoiler about the gameplay or the story. You play a little girl who has been at the hospital for an extended period of time, and your father has brought you home. There you go, my man. Has brought you home late in the night in the middle of a storm. And he tells you to go inside, that your mother's been waiting, but to give her some space because things have been really tough lately. When you get inside the house, your mother is asleep. When you find her the next day, something is really fucking wrong. And that elevator pitch should be enough to get like the hair on the back of your neck to stand up. Wait till you play the fucking game. It is going to throw you a 180 so fucking hard that your head will snap. Like, it is wild. Absolutely.
I'm so amped. I'm so fucking amped.
I'm mostly pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Pissed, I said, because I want to save this for Spooklight Games in October, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to wait.
It's, you know what you could do? You could play the game and then have Rose play it for Spooklight.
Sure. That's something.
Yeah, if you don't want to immediately go tell her exactly what happened, because like you're just
sure. Ooh, I'm gonna have to figure that out.
Look, this is 100% what Dumpster Dives is about. Like, hands down, this is what Dumpster Dives is about. It's finding a game like this where I literally found one review. I found one guide online from some dude that was like, I had to make a guide so people could like get the real ending, because there's 2 endings. You have to play it twice. Just by the way, play it twice. And he's like, yeah, I just had to make this so people get the true ending in this game. And then I'm like looking to see like, okay, are there reviews? No. I found a Game Facts page where one dude's like, no one's ever talked about this game. This game is one of the best horror games I've ever played. And there was one response, and it was like, seriously, no one's ever played this game. This is the best horror game I've ever played.
Wow.
So we're going places Dumpster Dives I don't think have ever been before.
Maybe people are being silenced. Maybe it's part of the marketing of the game.
Maybe we're in territory.
I have 2 questions for you, Cayman. Both from the chat. Great questions from the chat. High Score Weekly with the first question. How long is this game? How long to beat.com?
I would say play it once without looking at a single guide. You'll want to play it a second time with a guide so that you know how to get the real ending. If you do that, you can beat the game in about an hour and 30 minutes. That's both playthroughs. Because the second time you do it, you'll know where everything is. So you'll just kind of speed through, like kind of exploring around the house and stuff. So you'll be, it's pretty, like I said, it's a short experience. It's also $3. So like, it's even better. Because like, you can do this in one full sitting.
Yeah, that's, oh God, now, maybe we just stream it ahead of Spooklight Games. Who knows? And then second, Gianni asks, are there jump scares? Like, how scary is it?
There are 0 jump scares.
Okay.
Wow. So imagine this. This is the A24 of Dumpster Dives. There are 0 jump scares, but it is terrifying.
God, I love that. I prefer anything horror related, building the fear through the atmosphere and the tone, and not through like easy fucking jump scares. So that gets me very excited.
I'm really hoping that the game lives up to the hype, because I really stand behind this as like one of the coolest games I've played in a long time. And I think that maybe I've spoiled it. I'm trying not to tell anything about the game outside of the fact that it is a walking sim horror game without any jump scares, and it's got a really wild story. Outside of that, though, I really feel like that knowing anything else will spoil your experience. You really have to go in blind.
My final question, and then we can stop talking about the game. Is it a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Yes, it is.
Great. All right. Then I will certainly be
it comes between Ant-Man and Wasp Hands Mans.
Wasp Hands Mans.
Let's go. Well, speaking of Wasp Hands Mans, that is one of the bad guys in Elden Ring Nightreign. Myself and my gamble worth taking played the network test over the weekend. Maury, I think you put a little bit more time into this than I did, but we haven't got to hear from you much yet, because I wanted to save this one for last, because we're going to talk about some news with it as well. So Cayman and I have been yapping for 49 minutes. Maury, tell us about your experience with Elden Ring Nightreign.
Oh, I was about to say, trust. I got every word in that I wanted to. You guys have not taken anything from me, but Elden Ring has taken a lot from me, and that's why I love jumping back into the lands between and playing some Nightreign this past week. I think all in all, I probably got about 3 hours in. I just did one of the play sessions. That was kind of all I had time for. I enjoyed my time with it. I think I'm going to enjoy it a lot more when I'm playing with friends.
Sure.
Frankly, just playing with randoms was not very fun for me. But I enjoy the mechanics and I enjoy what they're up to. The farthest I made it was to night 2. So I didn't even beat the game. I didn't see the end of it. But in the time that I did spend, it was awesome. I was back in a position where I'm playing a game. There's no tutorial. I have no idea what's going on. And I'm just figuring out things in the spur of the moment.
Yeah.
Something interesting that Nightreign does is they have essentially like a storm from Fortnite, right? A moving circle that shrinks smaller and smaller until it brings you to the end of a day, the boss that you're going to fight, and it kind of just pushes you in. I didn't know that this was in Nightreign, so I'm getting ate up. My health bar is going away. What the hell's going on? It's a storm right there. Look at that, Patrick. You're fucking flawless. God damn it, the timing couldn't have been better. It's cool. I don't understand half of what I was doing yet. 3 hours was not enough. I didn't really figure out how to find certain items to be able to upgrade my weapons, but I knew I needed to. I enjoyed the fact that instead of like building a character, you already have a character that's pre-built, right? Their abilities kind of predetermined. I enjoyed that, right? It works better for statues for these kinds of games. Which I will be buying, by the way. I will be buying the collector's edition. This game is going to do bonkers numbers. It's going to get 5 big booms. It's going to put up an insane amount of points for fucking Cayman, the dumpster boy. And I couldn't be angrier that I thought when I saw it first, I'm like, this might be like an 82. I think that this is going to end up in like the 90s. So Cayman, congratulations on your draft pick. And I enjoyed my time. But Patrick, what did you think? How much did you get? How much time?
I played very little. I just had one of those weekends where I wanted to spend time with my dumpster boy instead of play a video game. But I did get to play a little bit in the last session. I got to play for the last like hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
What? No, you did not.
I liked this so much.
No, you did not.
This is a day one for Peachwussy. I might become an Elden Ring sicko. I think this might be my way in.
Wow.
I am so hyped on this, dude. I played as the Hawk, the bird boy, the bird man. I was the bird man.
Yeah.
And I is the bird man the one that rapped with Lil Wayne, Maury?
Yeah. I just call him Hawk Tuah.
On my hood.
I thought Birdman was part of the Still Fly guys. No way. Was Birdman part of Air Force Ones? Someone out there.
I don't know. But I was
basketball player, Patrick.
As Jake Twitchin is keeping me honest in the chat, I was Mike Hawk, the Hawk character. And it just there is a thing that with this game that Elden Ring OG doesn't have. And I think it's quicker.
Yes.
All of a sudden, I mean, so I played with 2 people. I didn't chat with him. I don't know that you could even chat with people because I came in at the fucking 11th hour, and I died 30 times probably in the nearly. We almost finished the second day, but we died in the second day boss fight at the end, and they were just reviving me so much, but because dying didn't cost me so much fucking time and stress, I could much more quickly learn from my mistakes. I could much more quickly get right back into the action, try a new thing, or try the same thing and just die again. But all of a sudden, I was getting much quicker and more instant gratification for being shit at Elden Ring. And it gave me this ability to start actually getting better at the game, because so far I've put maybe 6 hours into Elden Ring, and I got to like the first boss of Elden Ring. I don't even know who that is, but I beat that, and I barely got past that. But it was just always such a huge burden in that game to make any sort of progress as someone at my level. And I feel like Elden Ring Nightreign is a way for me to get better at this game, to then go play the original Elden Ring, now that it's no longer such a huge to do to make any sort of progress, because I now understand parrying better. I now understand the gameplay loop of Elden Ring better. And so, yeah, I am so jacked on this game. I had a lot of similar pain points that you did, Maury. Like, I didn't realize this was like Fortnite with the thing. I was like, why am I having to drink potions so fucking like every 15 seconds? And then I'm like, oh, I am on the other side of the map from the rest of my team. That's why I die.
Yep.
I respond with them, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, great. So it has that like aha, like it's teaching me through failure. And so, yeah, I don't know. I was so hot on this. I can't wait to keep playing. I do wish that it was a little easier still. I mean, it might be heresy to say, but I was being killed in like one swing from enemies. I'm like, really, one swing? But being able to come back instantly just, you know, made it a lot easier to digest. So yeah, I'm very hot on Elden Ring Nightreign, and I agree with Maury. No way this game is getting lower than a 90.
No way.
Throw in a question. Well,
yeah.
One, I would like to say thank you guys for letting that fall to the second round for me, so that I could have another time that I was able to pick up an Elden Ring game in the second round for many points. Question I have is, would you consider this to be a Fortnite clone or a roguelike?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that answer a lot, Patrick.
Are they the same thing?
No, like, so the reason why this isn't a roguelike is because like you don't carry any progression forward after that run. So like, yeah, so you progress in the run, but then all of it is just eliminated, deleted.
So
well,
at day two, do you lose?
I guess that is a roguelike then. Yeah, I mean, it's confined to that, like, I'll call it like a raid, right? It's confined to that raid that you go on, that you gain progress as you move farther along. But once the raid's over, you don't keep any progress. Like, for example, Hades, if you're going through the map and then you die, you still keep some of those upgrades whenever you show back up in the river Styx as you go into your next run. Right. The game doesn't really work like that. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. Patrick, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, it certainly, yeah, it has, you have roguelite elements is what D-Guns in the chat, or no, a roguelite means you do carry stuff forward. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly, I guess not every roguelike needs to have like procedural generation either, but I know that's like a common thing. But like this game, it's the one map, which is one thing that once we start talking about the news with Elden Ring Nightreign, is like one concern I have of like, how much are they going to be adding to this game? How much are they going to be evolving this game? But yeah, I mean, I think it has a lot of both things. It has a lot of Fortnite isms, it has a lot of roguelike isms, and they're gonna make so much fucking money, with this game.
So much.
It's absurd how much money they're gonna make with this game.
Do we know the launch price?
I thought it was 40. Let me check.
40.
I'm not positive. Yeah, check it out for us more.
Erdtree was what, 30 or 40, somewhere around.
Erdtree was 40, I believe.
Yeah. Let me get that to you right now. We just went to the back alleyway and got the information. It's $40 at launch.
$40. Okay. I mean, yeah, that's fair. I don't care. I'm not going to play this because
they think it's 50. Sure.
Damn, fuck us.
Jones and Simba also saying, could have sworn I heard Andy talk about there being between run progression. There might be. If Jake Twitchin's still in the chat, keep us honest, because both me and Maury only did one run. So
I may have been so ass that I didn't even find it because I got nowhere in it. That's probably what happened.
Once we died because the session was about to end, I was like, I'm not going to start another session. That'll just force me off. So I'm not going to do that. Jake Twitchin says, I was so deep. God. That doesn't answer my question though. Let us know how deep you went. Is there run to run progression? There is.
Speaking of being so deep, did you guys hear that Paul Walker's a pedophile?
God damn it.
God damn it. God damn it. No, I'm livid because I just gave bad information. But I want you to know, Patrick, I did more than one run. What that means is that my stupid little brain couldn't figure out how the progression worked.
Sure.
So, like, we just need to get me off the show indefinitely now that the chat's correct. No.
It's time.
It's time. Old Yeller.
No.
Old Yeller.
You got a zoomer brain, man. It moves at like 1 billion miles an hour. We're elderly, okay? Well, we're elderly, and also my brain is like split down the middle on like what works and what doesn't. So, like, honestly, That's why we can retain stuff like this. We become turtles or something.
Jake Twitchin says there is carryoverable in the form of equipable perks that carry over into your run from the start. So plus 2 vitality, 10% bonus lightning damage, etc. So I guess you unlock those and you can use them.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Elden Ring Nightreign could be so fucking fun with Dido, with drop in, drop out. Of between the 7 of us, whoever's going to be picking it up. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Oh, it will for sure. Do we know this for a fact? Because Erdtree didn't.
Well, Erdtree is within a game that already exists. This is its own game.
It has to have.
It'll have trophies.
If it doesn't, I don't buy it.
If it doesn't have trophies, I'm driving to Japan.
Yeah,
because I don't trust getting in planes these days.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guarantee you this will have trophies for sure. But let's talk about a little bit of news about this game and transition into some news for today. Elden Ring Nightreign. I'm pulling from Jordan Midler at VGC, talking about some extra bosses and playable characters via DLC. This was according to the game's Steam page. The Steam page for the upcoming game briefly included text referring to, quote, additional playable characters and bosses. While this text was removed but captured by PC Gamer, it's possible that it was only removed because the information surrounding the DLC wasn't planned to be announced yet. As we all know, we just mentioned a minute ago, DLC is not out of the norm for From Software. They've done it for as recent as Elden Ring. They did it for multiple Dark Souls games. They've done it for Bloodborne. So this is something that, there is precedence here. But both of you played and platinumed Elden Ring. So part of the reason I wanted to bring this up, even though Cayman, you haven't played Nightreign, is what do you guys envision as the future of Nightreign? Is it dropping in just like bosses and characters? Is it whole new maps? Is it new like versions of the modes? Like what would you guys like to see from something like Nightreign based on you guys understanding Elden Ring infinitely more than I do?
Maury, do you want to take this first or do you want me to jump in?
Yeah, dude, I'd love to kick it off.
Go for it.
And then I'll throw the ball to you. So I think like the first thing is you gotta add more maps because the Lands Between is such a massive world with so many different environments. I'll call them biomes for the sake of this conversation, like Caelid, which is like the deep red, like hellish plain, right? You have the capital city with all the buildings and shit. Like there's so much you could do with different maps. So I hope that DLC, I really hope that they just expand on the maps for free. But then for DLC, I could see you getting into more characters. I think that's been a conversation that's already been had. I know that there's more than 4 coming at launch, so you'd assume that they're building more for the game. I think that's really all you have to do. I think you just have to make it new and different, right? Like I think when you look at Helldivers and you look at like where it fell apart, it was a lack of variety quickly after launch. So I think that if they can keep some level of pace of adding new characters, new maps, that's what Marvel Rivals is doing so well right now. You're going to be able to keep people around. And I think that's about all I could really want. Cayman, what do you think they need to do for DLC?
Do you remember that time when Fortnite was supposed to be like a single player game that was like story driven? It's what I kind of hope Nightreign's going to do for Elden Ring, that people just forget that game existed because it's ass. It's a whole bag of ass game.
That they forget the OG Elden Ring existed?
Yeah, just fuck that game. It's a terrible game. No one should play it. Waste of time.
He's fucking with me. It took me like 5 seconds to figure
Patrick
it out.
and I have had like long discussions about how Kingdom Come Deliverance has become like his version of Elden Ring. Because I'm like, the truth is, like, as much as I shit on that game, the game is really fucking good. Like it is. It's a great game, and getting through and getting through bosses and stuff is such a wonderful feeling. I think the thing is, if you're doing the Lands Between is great. And to Maury's point, like there's a lot of things that you can pull from the Lands Between. I would love to see like an entire map dedicated to just the capital. Like maybe you get to start in the sewers and then work your way up, because it's really cool jumping from rooftop to rooftop when you're going through that section. It's just like a really fun chunk of game. What I think would be cool too is, like, I know that they've mentioned that they're going to be bringing in bosses from previous Souls games. I think this is where they need to start leaning. I think if they start pulling like if they throw you into that goddamn swamp. Remember that swamp in Dark Souls 1? That absolute blight town, absolute fucking dumpster fire of a level. it just would destroy your PlayStation 3. Once you walked into Blighttown, your whole PlayStation just fucking catch on fire. If you guys didn't live through that, then you really should go back in time because that was fucking hysterical. That game barely played when you got to that level. But I want to see an entire map just that level. Also, I would love to see everyone's systems catching on fire too.
Well, sure. Do you think that they'll bring in other titles and go outside of Elden Ring, or do you think this is only Elden Ring stuff?
I think that there's a like, if they want this game to have legs.
Yeah.
I know that they've made new bosses from what I've seen. They've made new bosses, and they've shown up in the beta. You can fight against some of those. So I think that they're going to keep making some new bosses, and there's going to be some stuff like that. But I do think, like, look, what is the one thing that Rocket League and Fortnite have in common is that they constantly are adding new things from other IPs.
Yes.
Now, sure, we're not gonna get fucking Nathan Drake swinging over with his fucking dick out, shooting guns and stuff at dragons. But what I do think we might see is, maybe potentially could see, depending on if Sony plays ball, like the Dragon Slayer or the Demon Slayer, like coming in. I don't think we'll ever see a Bloodborne character show up.
Dude.
I forgot about the Dark Souls bosses in there. They're talking about that in the chat too.
So I think that if you start pulling classes from like some like maybe builds from the Souls games that are maybe some of the more popular builds, you bring in the Praise of the Sun guy, and the entire internet would shut down. We would go full Kim Kardashian, champagne bottle, butt cheeks, booping in, right? But it's Miyazaki, fully nude, champagne bottle, ba-boom, right? Breaks the internet. Okay, that's the type of shit I'm talking about right now.
That's exactly right. I did confirm, other than playing the Show Me Them Cheeks sound, Jonesing Simba had been talking about in the chat about there being some procedural generation with the maps. I looked it up. The maps will be procedurally generated. So that I guess maybe that was already happening in the network test. I don't know. If you can't tell, I don't know a ton about Elden Ring because I've never cared, but all of a sudden I fucking care. So find me on May 30th with this game on the PlayStation 5 probably. So yeah, very excited that I am maybe going to become an Elden Ring sicko. And now it's like, Mr. The Human Plays, I know you're not here today, but when are we playing Elden Ring on stream? Because I'm fucking ready to learn.
Wow.
So let's fucking make it happen. Let's go to some other news. How about that, boys? Sony. They've come up so many times the last few weeks, especially since you've been around, Maury. They're just making mistake after mistake. And now they're apparently maybe not going to have a summer showcase this summer.
Who would have thought?
The second year in a row. Sony may not be holding its summer showcase. That's according to some industry insiders, most notably Jeffy Grubb from Giant Bomb. This is pulling from Andy Robinson at VGC. According to Giant Bomb journalist Jeff Grubb, Sony Interactive Entertainment is currently debating internally between the two models, the latter of which typically focuses more on third-party games and smaller announcements. What I accidentally skipped is that they might do a state of play instead of a showcase. Quote, they could still have some fun announcements and they could still start bolstering expectations by 2026, Grubb said, of Sony's marketing plans for the rest of the year. Quote, internally, it sounds like they're debating and flopping between maybe making something this summer a full showcase versus another state of play, but they are considering a showcase. And if they have a showcase, that means they'll have a lot of stuff to talk about. And at that point, you would definitely expect to see Wolverine and a lot of other games that could come out next year. End quote. So yeah, last time we had a showcase was 2023. That's when we got multiple games for PS5 and VR2, including Metal Gear Solid Delta, Spider-Man 2's first extensive look, Dragon's Dogma 2, and more. So 2 years in a row without a showcase, potentially, obviously not great. But Maury, I want to start with you. It's the kind of thing for me now where this bad news just kind of keeps trickling. And like, this is conjecture to a certain extent, but Jeff Grubb has sources. So like, it sounds like there is at least a conversation about them not doing a showcase. And you would think 4 months before a showcase, pre-production would already be underway.
Yes.
Like, so I'm willing to bet more so that there is no showcase versus there is a showcase, but it's like, is there a point that we need to start like ringing the alarm bells that like, hey, maybe there's like more bad shit going on at Sony than maybe we think, or is that an overreaction?
No, I don't think it's an overreaction. I think that most of what's going wrong at Sony, we already know about. That's the other thing. Like, I don't necessarily think they're bleeding in a way that we haven't seen. Like, I think we know their wounds. I think we've seen their wounds. But with that said, like, yeah, Sony's bleeding right now. And I'm getting tired of everybody pretending that they're not. I mean, 2 years in a row without a showcase is absurd. I understand that people, especially in the last couple of weeks, you've seen a lot of things on Twitter of people comparing how many first-party titles were released on the PlayStation 4 generation versus the PlayStation 5 generation, and they're pretty similar. They're like, see, everything's fine. You're getting as many games now as you were on the PS4, but think about how many studios have been purchased since the PlayStation 4 generation. Like, think about how many studios are due for a game right now, but are not going to be putting it out because they were forced to work on live service. And yes, I said forced, and I'm standing on that. Yeah. Forced to work on live service games that have now been canceled. I am concerned. I am worried. I think I knew it was bad at the end of the last showcase when they showed us Saros, a 2026 game, and nothing else in 2025. I don't know. I think there's been a tremendous mismanagement of talent at Sony due to a lot of bad leadership and a lot of bad ideas. And I think that now that's coming to bite Sony in the ass. And I think that's why there's even a conversation of maybe not having a showcase this year. That's unthinkable. You need to show people what the hell's going on at Sony and what we have to be excited about. I still remember Tim Geddes on Kind of Funny when we first started talking about exclusives in terms of like phases, right? He's like, phase 1 of the PS5 is God of War Ragnarok, and it's this, and it's this, and it's Spider-Man 2, and whatever else. And there was always this question of like, well, what will phase 2 be? And Tim's even gone on to say, like, I don't think there really has been a phase 2. Like, there really hasn't been this massive push of tremendous titles that's coming out. So this was a chance like for Sony to like alleviate stress by me never knowing that there was even a debate of whether or not there'd be a showcase. And instead of alleviating stress, they have increased my stress levels. I think my blood like cholesterol levels just went up. I need to go eat a bowl of Cheerios. I'm scared. So yeah.
Cayman, where's your head at with this?
All right. Let's buckle up, young buck.
Alrighty.
Okay, I think you really need to put that seatbelt on because I'm about to slam on the fucking brakes, and I'm gonna reach back and slap you across the face. Okay, you're ruining this 6-hour drive. Here's the thing, guys: low tides sink all boats just as much as high tides raise them. Okay, we look at who the juggernauts are, and sure, we always say Nintendo, Microsoft, PlayStation, then you have PC. PC exists on an island. It does its own thing. It just gets all the scraps left over from everybody else. Nintendo exists on its own island. They just jerk each other off all day, and no one really gives a fuck about them. What it comes down to is you have Microsoft and PlayStation. What does PlayStation need to do? Tell me, what does PlayStation need to do that Microsoft is beating them on right now?
Release games?
Okay. No, would love to jump on that point. Astro Bot won last year. PlayStation didn't have to do fuck all.
Sure.
They just released Astro Bot. Then I look over here and I'm seeing Microsoft releasing games that drop in the 7s over and over and over and over and over again. And it's like, cool, we got Game Pass and we're doing great things. And they are. And I don't want to say that Microsoft isn't. Astro Bot won Game of the Year last year. Microsoft, what the fuck were you doing? So what happens is we're now in the era of Sony being what Marvel is right now. Okay? Because Microsoft has underperformed for a decade. Why should PlayStation do much more than just barely shit out a game? There are games when they do finally like squirt one out, fucking wins Game of the Year. God. And you've got like, I've got 17 developer underscore directs. And like, what do you have to show for it? Have you had a single game nominated for Game of the Year? No. In 10 years, you have not. So I know that we're in panic mode and I know that we're like all this stuff, but like the truth is, I'm not going to panic if I'm Sony until Microsoft releases a game that makes me go like, oh, fuck, we really have to step up.
Sure.
Because right now
Yeah.
they don't need to. And we can shit on Sony all we want, but they're outselling Xbox
Totally.
console-wise. They probably don't, like, the PlayStation catalog or the PS catalog probably doesn't have the same amount of subscribers as Game Pass does, because Game Pass has PC. But, like, I don't think Sony's hurting for cash right now. I think Sony's made a lot of stupid mistakes, and they've hedged bets where they shouldn't have hedged them. But I also think that Sony's smart enough, too, that if they really need to, they can swoop in and do like they did with Square Enix and just be like, guess what? We're going to be releasing Final Fantasy VII Part 3 in a year or two. And when that game comes out, it'll be nominated for Game of the Year again. And we might have a game that we release the same year that beats it for Game of the Year. And then we're all going to come back again in a couple of years, and we'll sit down this podcast, and we're going to go, should Xbox be worried? Like, yes. It is what it is. We've seen this time and time again. I'm more concerned that, like, the industry itself will collapse before I'm worried that Sony will collapse.
Sure.
And, like, I think maybe our head's in the wrong place on that one.
I don't necessarily think they're going to collapse. I think you make a good point about Astrobot. I'm more concerned. Okay, so we got Astrobot.
Yeah.
And we're going to get Ghost of Yotei this year. And maybe we get Wolverine next year. But outside of that, it's like so many things are being canceled. So many studios are going under or, being closed. So many games, like I'm more so thinking about Sony in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years versus this year or next year, because if you're not going to have a showcase this year, that means that you don't really have much big stuff for this or next year. Because we know that Sony likes to show us their game 3 years in advance or even 5 years in advance because of Intergalactic. So it's like, we know that there is precedence for them to hint at stuff years away. But the fact, if they don't even have a showcase this summer, they don't even have stuff for like 3 years to be telling us about in some capacity. And that's where I start to get concerned, because even though, yes, Xbox hasn't done a Game of the Year contender in 10 years, and Sony has had multiple Game of the Year winners, including last year. High Score Weekly was making a point in the chat. AAA games have a 4 to 6 year dev cycle. What was going on 4 to 6 years ago that would affect pre-production and development? This is COVID lag that we're actually right at the peak of. I don't quite agree with that, because that would suggest that all of these games like started development then. And that's, I think that works for some developers and some games, but not Sony as a whole.
So, okay. So
to finish the point, I worry more about a few years from now, not right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say hypothetically, we don't get a traditional, like, we're gonna have a PS. What was it they used to call them? PSS Expo or something.
Experience. Was it
PSX.
Experience? Oh yeah. PSX.
So
yeah,
we don't have like one of those. We don't have like a traditional like a summer showcase. But let's say we did like we did last year. We got a summer showcase. What was summer showcase? We got what? The Astrobot trailer dropped.
Well, so it was a state of play last year for.
Well, yeah, sorry. State of play,
yes,
right.
They showed us
like
Astrobot. I don't remember what else they showed us, but
so
they
like,
said that Astrobot's coming in a few months.
Okay, so this past year, 2024, we got Rise of the Ronin, which didn't do great critically, but like you do hear a lot of people be like, the game's a lot better than I think people gave it credit for. One day I'll play it. I'll let you know. We got Astrobot. We got Final Fantasy. This year, who fucking knows what Ghost of Yotei? But I wouldn't be shocked if Sony pops out like 1 or 2 other exclusives. It might not be from an internal studio, but I wouldn't be shocked if we get another kind of Astrobot level something. Then the question is if we do get a state of play, which is a much smaller budgeted thing, like, would you guys at that point be like, oh, if we get some like consolidation that we like have some idea of what Sony's doing for the rest of the year, do you still panic going into 2026? Or you're like, oh, that's all I really need is a state of play? Like, do we even really need like a full-blown summer showcase?
I think for me, it's bigger than even that, right? Like, I loved what you said about Xbox, because you're right. Xbox isn't touching Sony in quality, even now that they finally have the quantity, which they never had for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're still not touching the quality. And I agree with you there. I think that when I talk about my concerns about Sony, I'm speaking much more about like an internal concern. I'm looking at Sony and the first-party studios that they already have, the first-party studios that they've purchased, the mismanagement of talent, and what that's going to lead to within the next 2 years, right? Like, I've already said this before. Days Gone Remastered if that game doesn't sell like fucking hotcakes, and it won't, I'm going to go buy it. But how many people are? Ben Studio's going under. That is their last hurrah. Like, really, the last Ben Studio game released in 2019, was it 2019, Days Gone? Like, we've talked about how, yeah.
Was it 18 or 19? Let's see.
Yeah. We've talked about how, yeah, if they like fast track their next game, not the one that they've been working on, but their next game, we might see it 4 years from now, which is 10 years without getting anything from Ben's studio. What a mismanagement of talent. You just lost a first-party developer.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're talking about Blue Point, right? Now, they probably save Blue Point. They find some way to cut somewhere else. But, like, what if you lose Blue Point because of the bad decisions being made? I'm not saying so much that I think Sony is going to go under or that the industry is going to go under. Sony Ponies is so fucking funny. Kayla, you caught me. But I am looking at Sony from an internal, like, metric and wondering, what are you doing with all this talent? And I don't know. I think I agree with what Patrick said. The effects of whatever goes wrong this year and next year, I'm going to see those 4 years from now, 5 years from now. I don't necessarily think it's an immediate thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know we're running along, but I do want to say, can you name like a full-fledged studio or like a full-fledged developer, not developer, like a hub, Sony, Microsoft, EA, whatever, that has like actually done anything worthwhile with their talent in the last couple of years?
Nintendo.
Okay, we have Nintendo.
Yeah.
Who's on an island. What I'm saying is like, if the worry that we have for this, it really to me is like, I'm much less worried about Sony as I am about just like the state of video games in general.
Sure.
Like, this is not what is Sony doing? Like, it is like are we going to have, like, we're going to have video games in the future, but like, how do we stave off like Ubisoft just shutting down entirely?
Sure.
Or huge chunks of studios being like, look, Microsoft acquires Tango Gameworks. They release the highest rated game Microsoft that year and immediately gets shut down.
Yeah.
So like, I don't think anyone's really doing a great job managing their studios, but I also know that like I've worked in corporate for so long that like the worst case scenario that we have from Sony is that they just do what Microsoft did and they just buy something to release. Yeah. They might not be buying full studios, or you know what? They might just straight up buy full studios to replace the studios that they have, that they had before. Like, that's how this works. And it's an unfortunate truth. And I hate it because these are real people who are losing their jobs and real people who are impacted. So I know this seems like really callous. And believe me, I've been laid off in corporate layoffs for no fucking reason other than someone just was like, it might be better if we just got rid of these people because it's a dollar sign to us.
Sure.
Been there before. And I think the thing is, at the end of the day, Sony's going to pay their way to be back in the conversation if that is how bad it gets. Then the question is like, do the games that they purchase, are those games going to be any good? Like, then maybe that's a completely different conversation.
Sure.
But I don't think that we are in a point right now, and I don't think if there is a showcase or not, that this is some signal that like Sony is currently anemic for content. I don't know if I'm as scared about that as like some people might be. And also I think we really also have to really take a step back and be like, pump the brakes to like in-game journalism, just like everything else, clicks come from fear.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And like, I'm going to be way more jump to click on an article that makes fun of like, that says Sony's is going to die and burn, crash and burn. I'm going to be way, to be, instead of looking to be like, is Sony going to come out, Sony's projections for this year are trillions of dollars. Like, who fucking cares about that? I don't know. Like, at the end of the day, everyone's going to find a way to continue making billions of dollars at these mega corporations. It's everyone else who suffers.
Yeah.
Amen.
I do want to bring in D-Guns in the chat. It gave some good answers to your question about who are some studios that are actually doing good. Capcom, Sega, FromSoft, Larian, Remedy, and Nintendo. Those are all good call outs.
So we have all but 2 of those are Japanese studios. Actually, if you look at all of those, none of those are Western studios, like American studios.
American, sure. Larian and Remedy would be considered Western.
And I was going to clarify.
That's fair.
And I was just going to clarify that when Cayman pitched it to me, I think he kind of presented it more as like publishers, like people that are like managing multiple studios. So like, FromSoft's doing great, but like that's 2 studios basically, like 2 teams in 1 studio.
Capcom and Sega, I feel like are one of those like rare ones, but even then, like their studios are Capcom is Capcom A, B, C, and D. Like, they're not even like they're so like baked in. They don't even have their own names. Team Street Fighter, just give them a fucking name, Capcom. Team guy with big yellow hair. That's actually Bandai Namco, I think.
No, that's true. You're right.
It's an anime.
I think to put a point or to put a button on this conversation, I do think it's worth mentioning to that last point that you said came in about clickbaiting and like that kind of thing. A lot of this conversation is my own fear. Like the article that I was pulling was just like, hey, this isn't happening. I was the one that was injecting the "Are we concerned?" conversation. But
your "Are we concerned?" conversation is literally 99% of Reddit and Twitter right now.
That's true for sure.
So,
but I don't want to be concerned, Cayman.
Oh, I don't want to either. I want great video games, and I think that the more we have great video games, the better everyone is, because that just keeps pushing everything to be better, be better, be better. And I feel like recently in the last several years, I feel like we're like kind of just going backwards, where it's like everyone's like, well, if we can just get by with the bare minimum, we're still going to make $60, $70. And it's like we're releasing games that are like half fucking finished. Like fucking Metal Gear Solid 5 didn't have an ending at all. Like fucking Cyberpunk. Jesus fucking Christ, that game. And I'm a Cyberpunk apologist. Jesus. Like, the more that we go back, like, as consumers, I think we need to stand up and start pushing back, being like, no, enough is enough. We aren't giving you our hard-earned dollars. They are spent for eggs and eggs only. So, like,
give me the eggs. Deegan says too much negativity regarding video games on the internet lately. It's painful to keep seeing. It is, and that's why I typically like that we try to have positive conversations at Spotlight Games.
Like fucking the worst over here tonight.
No, that's not on you.
See, I dressed up like Ice Cube from the early '90s tonight. So like, I just don't have Maury's chain. If I had Maury's chain, you guys would be feeling it.
God. I'm gonna ship it to you. For the next episode. Let's do it.
We had planned on talking about GTA 6 in a bigger way, but we've been running for an hour and a half, so I'm just gonna dump that into the news spotlight. How does that make you boys feel?
Sounds great.
So let's do a little bit of spotlight. So these are quick hit news stories. So we're gonna start with not that. We're gonna start with this, but that if you're watching. Otherwise, this just sounds like I'm having a stroke, which I'm not. Rockstar is reportedly planning Roblox and Fortnite style user generated content in Grand Theft Auto 6. They've been bringing in a whole bunch of folks from various sections of the internet to start figuring out a way to monetize that for GTA 6, reportedly. So expect there to be fully user generated content. I would bet not at launch, but at some point after launch would be my guess. Also, Phil Spencer provided a rare update on missing in action Xbox exclusive Everwild. So for the 4 people that care, one might be in this chat. Apparently Everwild isn't dead. Fair Games from PlayStation pushed to next year. We might have mentioned it in our story just now about Sony, but in case we didn't. And then speaking of Sony, Astrobot won yet another Game of the Year award at DICE last week. For those of you that don't know, the DICE Awards is an industry-only, kind of developer-only award show that happens at the DICE Summit every year, which is cool. Usually like a good kind of pulse check on where the industry feels the value is, which I think is also always very fun to see what they choose. And then also 5 new levels launched in Astrobot last week and a PS5 Pro patch. So if that floats your boat, go play some new Astrobot content. A sad one that I hope we get an update on: Nintendo vouchers won't count for Switch 2 exclusives, according to Nintendo. So if you don't know what vouchers are, you give them $100 and then you can use the vouchers for first party games of any price, but usually it's, most people I think use them for like the $60 games, so that ultimately you save $20, but not going to work for Switch 2, which in my brain means Switch 2 games going to be more expensive, but we'll see. Lost Records Blue and Rage Tape 1 out now, buy now, Avowed as well. And then later this week, Pirate Yakuza Like a Dragon launching on Friday. I'm sure we'll have some thoughts on that game at next week's episode. And then finally, this one made me laugh so hard earlier. Tyshawn Jones, a skater in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 HD Remastered, was recently on some podcast and was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be in a new Tony Hawk remaster. And I was already in the original one that just came out a couple years ago. So apparently we're getting, I guess, 3 and 4, maybe.
Hold on a second. When we were
Yeah.
doing the predictions episode for Dido, like, God, what feels like 3 years ago, did I make my prediction that I thought Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 was going to get a remake this year?
I don't know that came up. It might have.
God damn it. That was like, I had a list of things, and that was like my predictions of what I thought was going to come out that year. I was like, fucking Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. We're getting it, baby. That was a pipe dream. When I saw that, I was like, brother, I'm going to go to fucking LA and earthquake that son of a bitch so fast. Like, you won't even believe it.
Well, yeah. So I hope it's like Tony Hawk's Underground.
Oh,
HD
that'd be
remaster.
awesome.
Okay.
Fuck.
Give me some thug.
Oh.
And that brings us to the end of our show. What a rip-roaring conversation we had, gentlemen. How about
It was
that?
ripping, it was roaring, that is for certain.
It was a great time.
Something was
Phenomenal.
ripping. Before we get the fuck out of here, boys, Maury, where can the folks find you?
You can find me at GWT Maury on all social media platforms.
Yeah, that it?
I mean, shit, I guess. I mean, is there something else I should have?
No, I don't know. I'm just asking. You sounded so defeated when you said
you
it.
can find me at St.
channel,
Louis.
bud.
Do what?
You have an entire shitpost channel dedicated to you and Starfield.
I have a shitpost channel dedicated
Well,
to me?
That's how
If you-
often you get on Discord, buddy.
If you
God
if you
damn.
join the Drop In Drop Out public Discord,
God
GWT
damn.
Maury's channel has just become posting memes, which is so fucking funny.
God damn.
He
doesn't know. He doesn't
No.
know.
This
He-
boy.
That's so fucking funny.
I still got to look at Jonesing Simba's review of Captain America: Brave New World. That
Oh,
was
yeah?
something that I thought of earlier. Like, dude, don't worry. Hey guys, listen. I'm really struggling to keep up with the business Dido. Lord knows I'm struggling to keep up with the audience Dido Discord.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
this
getting
is
there. I'm getting there.
This is true. Dumpster Boy, where can we find you?
Okay, so this is actually a wild one. I feel like I've been saying this for so long now that it's finally fucking happened, and it just landed with such a whimper. You know, guess what? The first ever dumpster dive listicle has made it onto social media. So if you go to social media, Instagram and TikTok, and you search the Dumpster Boy, we do have a video up. The video is called something along the lines of 5 dumpster dives that will ignite the feels, where I list 5 games that I feel like are emotional gut punches that you can pick up on the cheap and on the DL. So yeah, that's actually posted, and I'm dedicating myself to trying to get a few more of these out before we get into the place where we start doing some bigger things. You know what I mean? Some big things. So we're gonna have listicles coming out. Like I said, one's out today. It's on the Dumpster Boy on all socials. And yeah, join the Discord, Spotlight Games Discord, or the Dido Discord if you haven't already. Some of the best conversations I think take place in midst some of those channels. Maybe not Maury's specifically, but some of them are pretty good.
Some of them are pretty good. Some of them are pretty good. You can follow me at PShwissyBoat. Just go to dropindropoutpod.com. You can get Spotlight Games Podcast, JK Games Podcast, twitch.tv/JakeTwitchin, which we're about to raid. Stick around. GWT Maury Cognitive Clips. We got a whole bunch of good stuff. We're going to be back tomorrow night right here on Spotlight Games Pod with some Doki Doki Literature Club. And then Thursday night, our very own Kayla Gray going to be hosting the pod. We're going to be doing some video game horoscopes. It's going to be juicy. That's going to be around 8:30, but we might go live a little before that. So keep your eye on socials, keep your eye on the Discord. But thanks for being here. I had a lovely time. I hope you did too. Go send some love to the homie, the dirty dog, Jake Twitchin. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.